Why have we got an American coming over here to the UK to tell us how to vote on the EU? Why is he splashed across the front of our newspaper telling us that he has a right to have a say because American blood was spilt helping defend us in World War II? And why have we got him telling us that it's good for us to stay as part of Europe because it's good for our lawmaking, it's good for our financial systems, and it's good for our sovereignty, whereas in fact we've given away our sovereignty. We don't have controls over our own laws here in the UK, and we certainly don't have any control over our borders. I think people like me who want to vote to get out of Europe, we don't actually want Obama over here. I'd rather see someone like Donald Trump come over because at least he has a firm line on immigration.
Why do we want to treat our major ally in such an offhanded manner? It seems that all these folks in this country now, the sort of bitter types who are opposing an American president, even giving his advice to us, I think they've now succeeded in annoying the Americans, annoying the Europeans, and they're basically a bunch of little Englanders who are not big enough to take advice. It's only advice. There's no interference. The American president and Americans don't have a vote in this. We have a vote in it. But surely we can take advice from people like the president. Take advice from anybody who wants to give it to us. Let's be grown up about this.
I don't think it's about the idea that we're Little Britain and that we're not prepared to take advice. I'm certainly prepared to take advice. I've listened to people saying that actually Europe is bankrupt. I've listened to the head of the European Commission saying actually we do interfere too much. I just listened to advice from those controlling migration or watching migration come, saying an extra 150 people a day are now arriving again into Greece and into Italy as the milder weather start across the Med. And also, why would I take advice from Obama when he's doubled the deficit in his own country during his shocking administration? I think he drank too much on Air Force One. I think he just went crazy because for me, they're interfering all over the place. They interfere on human rights. When we want to deport someone, they say, no, you can't deport them. When we want to give a prisoner a life sentence, they say no, because you must give someone hope of redemption. When we want to get rid of criminals that we have in the UK, they say no, because they have a right to a family life. Let them bring their families over. We still can't deport half the people that are here because of Europe. And yet we're still paying them, and our NHS is going under because it has no money left in its system.
Where do we get this view that this island here is completely on its own and are able to deal with all the challenges of a dangerous global world? Let me take one example here. Do you really think that if we come out of the EU and we have tariff barriers against us and we can't trade into our biggest single market, that will help the economy and therefore help the NHS and therefore help the education system in this country? Not at all. Because if we come out of the EU, we will effectively be blocked from entering the largest single market in the world. So I don't know why we want to do this and cut off our nose to spite our face, all because we have this strange idea that we ought not to cooperate with people in the world. There's not one issue, not one major issue, immigration, terrorism, economics, whatever you want to pick, not one that is not better solved by countries working together rather than working apart, and rather than engaging in all this sort of backstabbing kind of stuff we've had. For instance, we've had Boris Johnson today, the so-called leader of the Out campaign, offending an American president visiting this country by talking about his Kenyan roots.
Stephen, what are you talking about?
When do we stop offending? When do we stop offending foreigners?
This nostalgic nonsense, this kind of idea that it's also glowing if we work together and we wrap our arms around each other. This is complete nonsense. We don't have control of our borders. We don't have anything that's better together. When we have 300,000...
Are you a colonist?
It's 300,000 people coming into the UK. 300,000 people coming into the UK.
Do you think? What do you think will happen the minute we break our relations with Europe as far as immigration is concerned? The French are going to dump all those people in Calais on our doorstep. There'll be no agreement with our European countries. You are part of Project Fear. So they will dump. And look here, no, Project Fear, you just talked about immigration, trying to frighten people about immigration.
Yeah, and you said people from Calais will come here.
If we vote to exit the European Union, we have to have negotiations with our European partners about what kind of relationship we're going to be in. And these negotiations are not going to be easy. We're not going to be able to re-establish relations with the EU overnight. We'll be the first country to walk out of the largest single market in the world. We must be balmy.
Is that all of my life I have never had a say in Europe. I have never had a say in being part of this institution which tells me how to live my life, how to spend my money, how my democracy is going to be run, some democracy. I've never had a say. This is my time to have a say. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote to leave. And I don't need to listen to a gentleman who's come over here after a failed presidency because he wants to share in the limelight of the Queen's birthday. Mothers have just had to enter their small children to primary schools, and that none of them have had their first choice of entry because there aren't enough primary school places here. And that's what migration boils down to. It's about primary school places and places on the NHS.
What Katie, you need to do is to blame the British government.
I don't need advice from you.
Not scapegoat the EU. Look, we've had a government here that's been imposing austerity on the people for many, many years now. And if you talk quite rightly and understandably about the school places and so on, let's mote and beams. Look in your own country. And by the way, when you talk about democracy in the European Union, look at democracy in this country. We have an unelected head of state, unelected upper house, unelected Privy Council, and the House of Commons is elected by a crooked electoral system. We don't have much of a democratic system here to boast about,
A minute ago, you were telling me that I should be able to take advice from anywhere. I should be able to listen to advice, and now you're criticising our Queen one day after her birthday. I don't think that's
I haven't criticised
even Europe admitted this week that it's overstepped the mark.
Got to nail. We have to nail this myth. Westminster has a much bigger bureaucracy, huge bureaucracy, Whitehall it's called, than the European Union, which is a relatively slim-line bureaucracy. But over the years we've allowed these myths to go up.
All of this is so far removed from the daily grind of an individual who gets up at 6, works all day, has to pay their mortgage, hasn't got a place for their child, is queuing to get to the doctors, can't get a same-day doctor's appointment. They don't care what you're banging on about. They don't care about politics. They don't care about
And they don't, Katie, care about what you're banging on about, because you've got no solution.
They care about having their country back.
All right, let's get some more thoughts. What about the rest of Europe?
But we're going to take a very big hit, and they won't take an easy one either if we pull out, because what we're doing, we're disentangling, unilaterally walking away from relationships we've built up over many years now, like a spoilt child who wants to take the stumps home. And it will affect everybody. It'll have a big effect on this country because we're only 60 million consumers. The European Union, with 500 million, will also take a hit, a less important one in my view, but it's a terribly destabilising situation. And Katie may say that, look, the real problems facing British people, they don't understand these big things, and of course they understand.
No, I didn't say that at all.
Katie, why rock the boat if we don't know all the information?
People ought not to be treated like children.
I didn't say they don't understand it. I said there's many more important things.
And all of this, what you call, all of this, what you two-bit journalists call, all of this, what you journalists call, all of this, what you journalists call big issues, have a very big effect on people.
The EU needs us far more than we need them. I didn't say people don't understand the issue. I said that issues facing people are far closer to home than Europe. They care about schools, they care about health, they care about their families, they care about jobs. We will be free to trade with all other markets when we're out of the EU. We won't have the EU telling us how we can run our industries and how we can't. Our steel industry, we couldn't help save that recently because of our ties with the European Union.
If we pull out of the EU, let me tell you one very big consequence, one very big risk, which we haven't talked about yet. And that is the question that Scotland, the Scottish National Party, which is going to do extremely well in the coming Assembly elections, have virtually said that they do not want to be pulled out of Europe by the English. And consequently, they will go for independence if we pull out of the EU. Yeah. So there, we will have both to have to negotiate a way back into the EU and also have a problem with our own union at home.
I'm not worried about that at all. The Scottish have already had their referendum, which the gentleman may not remember. And as you will recall, they voted to stay with the Union. They'll stay as part of Great Britain. But what I think we have to remember is that 50% of the population over here want to vote to get out. 50% of the population probably don't want to hear what Obama has to say. And 50% of this population care about looking after British people first. And that is not remaining part of the EU.